Jessa Johansson from Girls is the epitome of what happens when living on the outside of the norm can actually cause havoc to people around you. So if you're someone who's ever struggled to keep down a job, hasn't really had a real friend group, or doesn't really consider any part of the world your home, her lore might just be the thing that helps you find at least one thing in your life that can be relatively stable. By the way, if you love cozy apps and commentary about pop culture, I'm Kira, this is Studio Violet, and go ahead and subscribe for more. We start the entire series with Jessa basically showing up late to her own party. Hannah is so happy that she's finally back in New York City. Shoshana is like obsessed with the fact that she's here and she's so hip, and oh my gosh, she doesn't even know what Sex and the City is. She's not even on Facebook. She's so cool. And meanwhile, she's just kind of like, whatever, it's the next step in my adventure. She realizes she's pregnant and that she has to go and schedule an abortion. And Marnie, the organized queen that she is, helps all of this happen, and just like she shows up late to her own welcome party, she also does not even show up to her own abortion. And just these first two episodes shows a lot about how she is. She's very like discourteous to the people around her. She kind of just lets her whims follow her around. Now there's some times where following your joy is a really important thing for us all to remember. A lot of our friends and family members, we can get stuck in a job that we hate and we can forget that life is worth enjoying. But she takes it a little bit too far, where she allows herself to go against what other people are doing to try to help her. She allows herself to be late to things and not even show up for things and doesn't even really care about the repercussions. Probably because we find out later that she has a really wild, weird upbringing, with her dad kind of being distant and not even really sure where her mom is. So while she's back in New York City, she's like, okay, I need to find a job. And this is this awesome scene where Shoshana's like, don't you think that outfit is like a little current? It's like totally see-through. And I was actually listening to an interview with Jemima Kirk, and she was saying that the first episode where she was more bohemian, she didn't really resonate with those outfits. So she started bringing in her own clothing as Jemima and started wearing that. So I think that see-through dress is actually hers, and that felt a little bit more Jessa. And I think that is too, because I mean that bohemian look was really big back in like the time of Girls, but I think that she has a different style. She's losing the kids, she's talking to the dad of the girls that she's babysitting, eventually invites him to a party. This weird back and forth of like these boundaries. If you watched my Hannah lore video that's linked over here, we talk a lot about how Hannah is bouncing around between different boundaries throughout the series. And I think Hannah takes the boundaries a little more to heart than Jessa does. Not that Hannah does a lot of things about it, but I don't even think Jessa even recognizes it as something she needs to change. She's just like, whatever, you know, this is what it is, I'll do it again. And meanwhile, she's like hooking up with old boyfriends just to prove like, I know you still love me. And so there's all these weird like anxious attachment things that she has where like she's not going to show up for an abortion, but she's going to show up for this old boyfriend. Very all over the place. And later on in the series, we understand when Hannah moves away to go to grad school, she's just like, you didn't stay like you said you would. Jessa actually genuinely needs people, even though she's going to constantly leave them left on red. And Cracksident is when I saw a little bit of humanity and care in her when Shoshana accidentally takes you know what? For a second, you see this like cousinly instinct kick in, and she's like, Shoshana, it's gonna be okay. It's a lot of fun. You know, like she's reassuring her it's gonna be okay. But then she sees the dad of the kid she babysits, and she realizes, oh, that's the guy who I said you can come because it came from a random phone number. What are you doing tonight? She just sent the address. And so then she's like, Ray, you take care of this. I want to give her a little bit of credit where before she saw him, I think she was going to take care of Shosh. But then she leaves. Before this time, like Jessa and Marnie, you can tell that Marnie is just like, Jessa comes in, she creates a fire, and then she lets us all pick up the pieces, which is exactly what she does. But then there's this nice bonding moment where Jessa and Marnie have this conversation where Jessa's just like, I think you are so clean and you are so well kept and you are this and that. And I really appreciated that. And I think Marnie really needed it. So they ended up meeting Thomas John, who thinks he's gonna get a threesome from them, and Jessa's hating the entire experience, where Marnie's like, yeah, like I need to loosen up, right? Like I need to have a little bit more fun like you. And the last episode of season 1 is when there is the surprise wedding between Jessa and Thomas John, where you literally had no idea that was happening. She disappears for a little bit. The past episode, everyone's just like, I don't know where Jessa is, I haven't heard from her, and then they realize that she has a surprise wedding with Thomas John. The theme for Jessa season 1 is settling in. So you might resonate with Jessa in season 1 if you feel like you've been gone from something for a while and you're coming back and you're kind of just like finding your place again. You're settling in. As much as Jessa doesn't necessarily feel like she needs to settle in. My cat is under my blanket. She's nomadic and bouncing from thing to thing. It feels like she might not need to settle in, but I think ultimately New York City is her home and these girls are her home, as much as she is not gonna say it. Maybe like you had to move back home with your parents because you lost a job and you're just like, this is weird. I need to get comfortable with this for a little bit. I need to establish where I am. Maybe it's like in the hometown that you went to high school in, and it's this like weird moment of, okay, I gotta see what my flow is here. I gotta get back into the flow. Or maybe you've been away traveling for a little bit and you're back at home and you're like, I need to get back to reality, but also see what's gonna be different in my life. Like establishing what the familiar things are, but then also how am I gonna make things different? Now Jessa goes crazy and actually goes up and gets married, but part of me thinks that's just who she is. So then we have season 2 where Jessa and Thomas John are like living in this high rise and everything looks amazing. He's like giving her puppies and she's painting and everything looks amazing on the outside. And especially for Hannah, she's just like, is this what it should be? This must be what married life is. And she's like, yes, this is what married life is. I guess you're just never gonna know it until you have it. And then we know later on that things really do not work out. But I think she's trying to convince herself too, like, oh my gosh, I finally made it. There's one thing in my life that's stable. There's one thing in my life that I can say I achieved. And then there's this big explosive fight with Jessa and Thomas John, and they realize they're not good together at all because they don't even know each other. And she ends the episode coming into Hannah's bathtub and blowing a snot rocket in the bath. And I love this really sweet moment because I think Jessa, if you resonate with Jessa, you're probably one of the types of people that like you don't really want to show emotion that much. You don't want to show when you're frustrated at something. You don't want to show when you're having a really hard time. But you see her, and there's a lot of moments throughout the show where words are not spoken, but you know exactly what's happened. She just comes into the bathroom, she doesn't say anything, and she just starts crying. And then they just share a moment, her and Hannah. And it's that one little moment where you're like, Jessa has feelings. Even though she doesn't want us to think she does, she does. This is then when Jessa brings Hannah to visit her estranged father up in like upstate New York. And they spend a kind of weird weekend. Like Hannah's doing all this weird stuff and Jessa's being really reckless. And there's a moment where you first see that like on the outside their relationship seems like great and they're joking, but then you see really how Jessa feels. And then you realize that her dad and her stepmom like already have plans and they weren't even planning on hanging out with her. And this is where you could see a little bit of a peek into how Jessa really experiences life and her background, and you have this little sympathy for her. And then as her and Hannah are gonna leave, she leaves Hannah and Hannah has to go back by herself. And we realize later that she checks herself into rehab, probably because it was super triggering to be back. I mean, if you've ever experienced like being around, I don't know, different family members or different friends where it's almost like you spend 10 minutes with them and you feel like you're hungover, you feel like energetically drained. When you're around certain people like this, it can be very traumatizing and triggering. And if you've ever been in that situation where you're around like a toxic family member or a friend, it's okay to kind of get out. Now, was the way that she did it with Hannah great? No. I will give her credit for taking some accountability and getting herself checked into rehab. This season for Jessa is all about ebbs and flows, and you might resonate with season 2 Jessa if you feel like there have been a lot of ebbs and flows in your life where you feel like one week everything is so great, work is great, friends are great, social life is great, and then the next week it's completely down. It's almost like a menstrual cycle a little bit. Like you got one week where you're just like, oh my God, everything is perfect and amazing. And the next week where you're just like, I want to throw myself in front of a train. And then the next week where you're completely different. It's very similar. And we see Jessa going through a huge fluctuation of all of this, where at the beginning she's on top of the world, she's married, she's in the high rise, she's doing art. And then by the end, we don't even see her. She disappeared because she became re-traumatized. And it's this like reminder that you're gonna feel amazing one day and eventually it's gonna come back down. You're gonna have the worst day of your life, eventually it's gonna come back up. Everything's always going to even out. So just as a reminder to you, like if you're going through these really highs or these really lows, it's always gonna come back. It's always gonna come back and you're gonna be okay. We open up season 3 realizing where Jessa is, and she is checked into rehab, and she is not a great rehab patient. She's interrupting these meetings and being like, I feel like you're using this as an excuse. Like, she is the worst rehab patient they could ever be. Again, she's gonna go into any situation she's in and ding dong ditch or plop a steaming pile of you know what there for other people to stamp out and have to clean up. And that's exactly what she's doing here. Being in rehab, I can't even imagine what it's like. I have a lot of friends and a big community of people who have been through 12-step programs and are very open about that. I think all of them would just laugh at this because so many of them have a great sense of humor being on the other side of it, of like how crazy and ridiculous that behavior is. And so then we have Hannah, Shoshana, and Adam's trip to go pick her up from rehab. And little do they know, not only can Jessa check herself out, but they even offered to drive her to the airport. There's an airport, and she didn't tell them any of this because we know that Jessa actually needs people so badly. She's never gonna say it. She's never gonna tell them. She's always gonna use an excuse of why she needed somebody's help. But deep, deep down, she needs her people bad. And Hannah's even telling them this as they drive up. She's just like she's aware that genuinely Jessa is a very lonely person and she really, really needs other people. And she will completely unfurl if she doesn't have those people. And she'll never say it, right? She'll never say it. And there's this little moment where she is remembering this old friend Season she had that she thought passed away. But then she realized that Season faked it just to get away from Jessa. And I think that's when she's realizing like, wow, am I like a walking tornado? Do I just create problems everywhere I go? So Jessa, meanwhile, as she's like settling back into the city, she's like, I need a touch of innocence. And Shoshana's like, you literally have a criminal record? Like, what's going on? By the way, if you like content like this, I'm creating a whole girl series. You can go on my channel and take a look at all of it and let me know what other series you want me to do. Just comment below. And then we have the famous beach house scene where Shoshana is drunk confessing every single thing about everyone, including Jessa just being a terrible person. And meanwhile, she reconnects back with this guy she met at rehab, Jasper, who's not sober in any way, shape, or form, and she's honestly not at this point either. And they're just having a grand old time, and Shoshana's just looking at them like, what is this? What is this? Why are you doing this? And then, like, meanwhile, Marnie is working at Sujin's art show, and Jessa just comes in. Like, this is such a classic Jessa moment. Like, Jessa just comes in, she's just being her old self, and Marnie's with this artist, Beatty, who's trying to envision something and she's not really liking it, and everyone around her is just kind of sweet talking it, being like, oh, it looks really good. And Jess is like, no, it doesn't. I don't like it. And Beatty's like, no, I agree. So Beatty hires her to be like her personal assistant to help her alphabetize things and stuff. And this is one of those like almost fever dream moments that I don't think any of the other girls ever know this whole subplot line of her and Beatty, where Beatty asks her like, hey, I need your help in myself. And then immediately when she does it, like, she gives her the pills and she's ready to, and then Beatty goes, call 911. I don't know. Can you imagine being in a scenario like that? And you know that's not the only time Jessa has been in that scenario. So there's all these like little subplots and all these moments where you're just like, nobody really knows what's going on. There's so many little things that you're just like, oh, that's why you're like that. Oh, it's the people around you that are really influencing you bad. And if like you've ever been through that, if you have a friend that has this like crazy lore and they're like, oh yeah, that one time that I like spent the night with Mick Jagger in a hot tub. You're like, what? Like that's Jessa. You're just like, when did that happen? How did you not tell anyone? It's like, oh yeah, it's just another day. You know? And so it's just such this weird thing where like Jessa's closest friends, she will screw over. Like, she will not show up to her own abortion. She will leave them high and dry at her dad's house, throw a surprise wedding and not tell anybody, explode her marriage. But then to somebody she's known for a few weeks, like Beatty's literally like, I love you more than my kid. Jessa's like, tell me you love me more than my kid. And there's also this moment too, like in Beach House, where Marnie's like, where's Jessa? And she ends up meeting these random old people in the back of the bus. And she's, oh my God, I'll call you as soon as my phone charges. And she treats them like she's known them for years and years and years. So you might resonate with season 3, Jessa, if you feel like You can really identify with a lot of the little adventures you've gone on, the little subplots in your life. When I travel with Static, whenever, sometimes when he's touring, he'll like bring me along with him. I opened for Jimmy like maybe 2 years ago, and I just tagged along on their tour with for a few states. It was like Charlotte and Atlanta and Nashville and a few other ones. And I just remember that, like that was maybe a week, but it was like the best week of my life. It was so much fun being able to travel with them and like travel for music, travel for performing my original music. That was wild. And I feel like that taught me so much, even though it was a week, about like what I love, the types of people I want to be around, the types of travel I want to do. Just because it's not happening every single day doesn't mean it can't teach you a lot about yourself and where you see yourself in the future. So maybe even a conversation with somebody that you had, like a short conversation with a semi-stranger, or a little experience you had like at the park with your kid, where just that little moment could teach you so much about what you want for your future. Now we opened season 4 with Jessa really confronting Hannah and being like, by the way, you're leaving us, you're telling us to do something that you wanted me to come to New York City. I'm in New York City and now you're leaving. Hannah is at school. Jessa is starting to get into the AA community since Adam invited her, and Adam's starting to see how Jessa just pulls people into her chaos. She like goes pee in the middle of the street and she gets arrested and she's like, oh, screw the cops, man. And Adam's like, yeah, I'm not doing this. Like, you're trouble. And then Jessa, a little bit out of her Jessa character, is like, I need a friend. I need a friend. I really need you. I know it looks like I feel like I think I got it all together and I don't need anybody. I need a friend. We realize that Jessa just isn't quite the friend she needs, because we learn when Hannah comes back from Iowa, not only that Adam has a new girlfriend, Mimi Rose Eleanor Howard, but that Jessa was the one that introduced them because she wants Mimi Rose's ex-boyfriend. And I think this is the first moment that we see, like, yes, Jessa had moments where she was screwing over her friends in season 1, and she was doing little things and ditching them, but like, that's bold, man. That is bold to do that. I was very mad at Jessa. So then Jessa and Ace, Mimi Rose's ex-boyfriend, are like, they're trying to make it work. And of course it's not gonna work because Ace is still in love with Mimi Rose. Jessa is just using everyone as her pawns to get what she wants. So even though earlier in season 2, we like feel bad for her that she's going to rehab, now I'm like, dude, you deserve all of this. You're being a totally terrible friend right now. And right when we want to hate her, right when we're just like, Jess is the villain of this show, Jess is the villain, we hate it, then we see Caroline, who's going through labor, and Jessa is the only one who like gets in there and helps her. And she ends up naming her baby Jessa Hannah because they were both around. But Jessa's really the only one who's just like, I want to get in there, I want to help her. Like, and so you just gotta, she's gonna do the really messy things. Like, she's gonna do the messy things because she's gonna make the messy things, but then she's also going to help with the messy things. This idea of rubbernecking, like when people are driving and there's traffic, not because there's anybody blocking anyone, but because people are turning their heads because they want to see what's going on. So Jessa, a little bit, she wants to see what's going on, but she's also causing it too. So as much as you gotta hate her for this whole Mimi Rose thing, you're also like, damn, she was the only one there for Caroline. She really was like, she got in there and helped her. Might resonate with season 4, Jessa. If you feel like there's a lot of messiness going on in your life, you can look back and look at the things that you've done in the past and been like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I have caused messes, but I will also help clean up messes too. I think the older we get, especially in our 20s and 30s, we start seeing people, especially on social media, very well kept. Very, like, you know, they have their hair and makeup done every single day. It can be very easy to compare yourself to people. But when you do have this little air of messiness and you're able to get your hands dirty and help other people, or, you know, get your hands dirty and, you know, mess up other people's lives, it does show that you have a little bit of grit. And that's one thing that I've been thinking about. Like, as I've lived in a few different cities, the more I watch Girls, the more I miss living near New York City. And it's because I miss the messiness. Now, I tried to live in New York City for a while. I did not love it. I lived in Manhattan, I lived in Astoria, and it's just, I need to wake up and have like a cute coffee shop to walk to and greenery and a little bit of a neighborhood. There's kind of this trade-off that has to happen, that like, in order to be excellent at something, in order to have the creativity and like the grit to be able to do something, you do need to be a little bit messy. We open season 5 on Marnie's wedding day, and she's rolling her eyes at Jessa as usual because she pops in and she's like so, as Shoshana says, she looks so whimsical / beautiful. And she's like, oh, I just went in the stream and then I like blew my hair away. Like I just ran away in the field to dry myself off. It's like, shut up. And then you see her and Adam share a kiss, which that made me so mad the first time I saw it. Wow, it still makes me mad now. And you see throughout this time that Jessa's just like, no, I can't do this. No, I can't do this. But she does it anyway. Like she does it anyway. Like you can talk and talk all you want, but your actions are really gonna show. And she does it. Any moment like when you are with your friend's ex, like it's just not good. Like Marnie doing that, that was pretty crappy, but I will give it to her. When Marnie went and told Shoshana, she was like, listen, I slept with Ray. I'm sorry. Jessa's not doing any of that. She's not doing any of that. She's completely ignoring Hannah. She's being really mean to her. And it's ebb and flow with Jessa throughout the series, at least for me, where one minute I'm just like, damn, she's very insightful and smart and thoughtful. And then the next moment I'm like, she's actually like the worst person alive. And this is really when I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you with Adam? And then you see this moment where Jess is like, I really want to become a therapist. Like, I really feel like I can do this. I want to go to school for it. She asks her sister for money. She says no. Adam says he's going to give her money. I have heard that this is not something I'm saying, but I have heard a lot of people saying like the most effed up people like want to become therapists. I've met a few people. I met a few people who I'm just like, why are you trying to be a therapist? And then there's that devastating moment where all the girls go to see Adam's like immersive play, and Hannah sees from across the way him and Jessa looking at each other, which had to be just the most beautifully done moment in that season. Again, Lena Dunham's does such a great job of like how to show that things are happening without words. That's the beauty of art. Like the fewer words you need to describe something, the better. And that scene right there, you knew exactly what was going on. You knew exactly when Hannah found out. Now hear me out. Jessa is a very good reminder that we should always be following what we want. You know, a lot of people, again, will be stuck in a job that they hate, or in a friend group that they hate, or in a relationship that they hate. And it's a good reminder to be like, why are you doing this if you hate it? Now, she goes a little too far, where she will actually screw over other people to get what she wants. But it's a good reminder. Now, we do see Jessa have some comeuppance as they're taking care of Sample, because Caroline left, and Adam is realizing that Jessa's like, not even able to function without somebody else helping her and treating her like she's a baby. And she's like, oh, I need this, I need that. And Adam's like, I'm not gonna pay attention to you over a baby. Like, you need more help than a baby. And for me, I was like, girl, yes. Like, could not have said it better myself. Like, she needed a little bit of that slap in the face, man. Now, there's this really physical moment. And throughout their relationship, Jess is like, we're going to destroy each other. And I'll give her that. She had good intuition. Because there's a moment where they're just destroying literally every single thing in this apartment. And, like, the last scene in it is them both lying, like, naked on the floor, just around all of the things they've destroyed. Now, Jess is starting to manipulate Adam into being like, you should make a movie about you and Hannah's relationship and how messed up that is and how it's so great that you're with me now. And you realize actually later on in the season that when Adam is making this movie, he's like, no, Hannah's not crazy. They should be together. And she's getting really upset about this. But listen, I'm like, hey, comeuppance. This season's theme, damage. And I feel like you can resonate with Jessa if you feel like you're in a part of your life where there's just been a lot of damage. There's been a lot of emotional turmoil, a lot of maybe physical turmoil that you're just trying to overcome. And it's so hard for me to pull lessons from Jessa because every time I watch the series, I think less and less of this character. Jemima Kirk, amazing actor. That's why we love her. But Jessa herself, such a terrible human being, man. Like, gosh, we want to like her so badly, but she's so difficult. Like, if you can look back and look at damage that you've done and take accountability for that, you can actually be better than Jessa because she's looking back and I think she can see the damage she's done. Is she gonna change though? And we don't need to dwell on this because I tend to dwell on things like that a lot. But if you can look back and be like, okay, what part have I played in where I'm at right now? And what can I do differently? We're already light years ahead of what we could be, and good on us for doing that. Season 6, Jessa, her and Adam are together. He's making this film, and she's kind of like like this moment where she's like inviting herself to Shoshana's networking event, and Shoshana finally realizes, she's like, you actually have ruined my life. You've ruined all of the potential relationships and connections I could ever have. I could have been a part of Jamba Jeans. And honestly, like, I think she's right. Like, I think Jessa needed that. And we see how Shoshana treated Jessa at the beginning of the series. She's like, oh my God, you're such a cool older cousin. You are so classy. You are so bohemian. You are so whimsical. And finally, we're at this point where Shoshana's like, get out. Like, get out of my life. So meanwhile, Jessa's focusing entirely on this creative project, probably because she has the majority of her friends not even talking to her, so she has to distract herself with something with this movie. And then she's realizing that Adam is being really sympathetic to Hannah and that Jessa's actually kind of the villain in here. It's being shown verbally through things like Hannah being like, you're a terrible friend, and Shoshana being like, you are an awful cousin. And then actually conceptually through this film where she's like, wait, I'm not the protagonist of the story. I'm not like the main character. I'm not the hero. Then Jessa has like the nerve to tell Hannah, like, I'm so upset you didn't tell me you were pregnant. And Hannah's like, whatever. Like, dude, after all of what you've done, you're upset about me not telling you that. There's that like weird fever dream day where Hannah's just like, maybe I can make this work with Adam. And Adam's like, I want to help raise your baby. And Jess is like terrified of what's going on and sends Laird up there to distract them. And she's just being super selfish and just realizing that not everything is in her control. She has these moments at the beginning of the series where she's like manipulating guys and she's like, see, you can never resist me even though you have a girlfriend, like you'll always come back to me. But now I think she's finally realizing like, oh wait, I can't control everything. Like not every guy wants me. It's a little bit of a slap to reality. And the last scene that we have with Jessa is her showing up to Shoshana's party, Hannah and Marnie already being in Shoshana's party, because I gotta give it to Marnie. She's a very good friend. All of them coming into the bathroom and Shoshana being like, this is actually why we can't be friends anymore. Like, I am engaged. I'm in Al-Anon. Like, I'm thriving. And that's because I haven't been hanging out with any of you. Like, Hannah, you didn't tell me about this. Jess is ruining my life. Marnie, stop trying to make everybody be friends. And that's when I think Jessa finally has this realization where she's just like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And Hannah's like, I'm sorry. And that was exactly what was needed. Now, who knows where Jessa is now? Like, who knows what happened with her and Adam? Who knows what happened with anything, right? But now if you could resonate with Jessa in season 6, we have this moment of reality slapping back. Now, I think Jessa's lore is a lot about like if you yourself feel like you're a super dysfunctional person, which I feel like most people here are not. Like most people watching this are not super dysfunctional people. So maybe you're thinking of like a Jessa in your life where you're like, okay, that friend is a Jessa. We're fine. I just need to find a Marnie, right? Think of Jessa when you think of maybe yourself, a little bit of accountability, but most importantly, you can think of Jessa as other people in your life. If you need a little bit of distance, maybe if you want to reevaluate your friend group, then you can think about, you know, is this person acting like a Jessa right now? Am I acting like a Jessa right now? Am I being selfish? Am I letting all the ebbs and flows let me treat people how I want to treat them instead of how I ought to treat them? Am I causing damage wherever I go? Am I letting my messiness affect other people? Because ultimately, if you do feel like there's people in your life who are like that, they are going to hit their season 6 at some point where reality is going to slap back. Even Marnie has like this realization that she's just like, I want to help other people and I don't want to be dysfunctional like my mom is. Hannah has taken ownership of her motherhood, and Jessa, like, she's a little bit behind everybody. She's not necessarily to Shoshana's level or whoever's the most happy. We can't even really compare. But I think just the fact that she said sorry is like huge for her, because I don't think she really does that throughout the entire series. Now, you probably don't resonate with Jessa, but you might resonate a little bit more with Hannah, being maybe an artist who really wants to get themselves out there but feels like they don't have enough of a story or enough of a experience or background to do that. So if you do feel like you're a little bit more of a Hannah, go ahead and hit this next video all about the untold lore of Hannah Horvath. So happy you hung out with me, and I'll see you there. Bye.
Till you hear the sound of my heart break.